I met an elephant and a rhino, and both of these experiences were so powerful and emotional and spiritually poignant to me. They were incredible. It was like nothing I've ever experienced. An elephant came by our vehicle, and I had about 6,000 pounds worth of camera gear on me, and I just put it down because I had to just feel this experience with this unbelievable being that was in my presence, just standing silently. It wanted nothing, it asked nothing, and it stood with us for about 5 or 10 minutes. It felt like a lifetime, and then it just walked away, and I spent the next 15 minutes sobbing like a child. And a couple of days after that, I had the unbelievable privilege of meeting Sudan, who some of you will know is the last male northern white rhino on Earth. He's one of 3. He, his daughter and granddaughter are the only 3 remaining rhino of this particular species. Kind of experience leaves you in no doubt whatsoever that these creatures are absolutely incredible, and they deserve a chance at life. But he didn't already know it. That kind of encounter makes you realize that every single life matters. Every life matters.
I sat with 2 of our rangers, one whose face was torn apart by bullets, another whose legs were shattered and riddled with shrapnel, and another had been shot. These are the latest casualties that now amount to 10% of all the men in our unit. The good news is that for 8 months, no elephants have been killed in Mali. However, that cost human lives. There are only 300 Sahelian desert elephants left. There used to be hundreds of thousands. Just 300 in the entire West, North, and East Africa. It's an illegal trade, and it is supported by the legal trade. Without the legal trade, they wouldn't be able to sustain and engage in the business that makes their money, that enables them to kill rangers and to kill you and I. These groups are specifically Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State and their franchises, whatever you would like to call them, that operate not far from here, in our backyard, in Africa, and who are a direct threat to each and every one of us. When I hear that a government is supporting a trade in ivory or rhino horn, I know I'm lying to those men. It's not respected, the sacrifice they're making. No one cares about the lives of those elephants, rhinos, and those rangers and soldiers who are killed trying to protect them. If they allow such trade, they shame themselves, they shame all of us, and they make a mockery of the sacrifices that are made in the field. So what has just happened, if there is truly a ban that is going to come into place in the UK, it is a fantastic result, and the result of a few people making a great effort. But it's not enough. It's nowhere near enough. It has to happen everywhere. There can be no trade in rhino horn and no trade in ivory.
The issue with the elephants in India is that they are capturing the male elephants and they are torturing them and using them for cultural festivals under the guise of culture and religion. When I visited those temples, I was devastated to see these elephants, these majestic, amazing beings, shackled and being enslaved and dragged like slaves beneath the scorching sun, with tumors on their body, with their ankles cut and with raw bleeding wounds, the ankles cutting right through their flesh, and tears flowing down their face. And I thought to myself, I had to do something. I got 25 hours of footage, and I said, what do I do with this now? Because, you know, I was haunted. And I produced this documentary called Gods in Shackles. Let us educate ourselves so we can be empowered to take action.
And this small one is a ceremonial Angus. Can you believe it?
Maybe it is at last good news for the elephants. I will tell you this, I have one fear. And right now, I think there are a whole bunch of ivory dealers in this country and antique dealers who deal in ivory, packing up elephant products, sticking them in the back of a car and sending them to Europe where they can carry on their business. So I call on the government to introduce an immediate moratorium on all exports of ivory. Goodness me, this has taken a long time, and it somehow indicates to me what a low priority this was given by some members of the government. We have to be thankful for small mercies. But I'm not here to talk about elephants for once, I'm here to talk about rhino. So the good news is that in some parts of Africa and Asia, rhino numbers are stable, even growing, and poaching levels are low. The greatest impact of poaching remains in South Africa, where it's likely, despite a massive effort by the state, private conservancies, conservationists, organizations all over the place, individuals, the international community, it's likely that more than 1,000 rhino will probably be poached by the end of this year. The situation is made worse by one relatively new factor. Last year, a gentleman named John Hume visited London. Mr. Hume is the most successful private rhino captive breeder in South Africa, and he has an estimated 1,700 rhino in his possession. And Mr. Hume's recipe, and he calls it a recipe, for saving the rhino is to breed them, cut off their horns every year, and then sell the horn. So, breeding, of course, is legal, but the selling of horn is not, until recently. In April 2017, Mr. Hume challenged the national moratorium on the domestic sale of rhino, and he won. In August, just 5 months later, Mr. Hume held his first rhino auction for horn, and reportedly sold about 1/2 a ton of rhino horn for about $500,000 to private buyers. Not just any private buyers. The advertising for the auction was available in Chinese and Vietnamese. The South African Minister for the Environment, Ed Malewa, who I've met many times and who's been very challenging to deal with, has suggested she might, after all, be in favour of legalising the international sale of rhino horn. It's very hard to believe, but it is true. They say the rhino horn trade ban didn't work. But let me tell you, it actually did. When it was rumoured, whispers from Southeast Asia, that rhino horn was not only a fever reducer and a possible potency enhancer, but that it was a cure for cancer. Looking at a statue of Winston Churchill over there, they said in the war, careless talk costs lives.
We do not want any more fighting! Thank you, thank you, thank you.